Hey guys, this is Neil Shulman, the editor of InAllKindsOfWeather.com. We have our first ever podcast today. Very excited about that. Ready to get it going. So we have myself, we have Neil Blackmon, another contributor for In All Kinds of Weather, and we have a special guest from the Florida today, David Jones. How are you guys?
Good.
Good. I'm glad you guys are doing well. That started off well enough. So, a lot of stuff going on in Gainesville recently. Florida played flat against Missouri, got crushed 42-13, and really it wasn't that close. The score made it sound closer than it really was. But, so, a lot of Florida fans are saying maybe Will Muschamp should go right now. I don't really disagree with them. That was not a very impressive performance. And I realize there aren't a ton of head coaches available at the very moment, but what his teams have done have not been very impressive. So we'll go Dave, then Neil first to avoid confusion again. Dave, why do you think he still has a job for the rest of the season?
Number one, recruiting. Number two, recruiting. Number three, recruiting. I think no matter who the next coach is going to be, you want to finish strong. And I think Georgia looms very large. I think Florida State looms very large. Don't want to embarrass yourself. And people tend to forget one of the biggest contributions that Ron Zook ever made at the University of Florida was when he beat FSU in the class game. Because when a new coach comes in, he doesn't want to be completely lost and hopeless and coming off another 42-13 loss against the people he's going to be recruiting against. And the other thing is, I think you got to let it play out. You got to see what apples fall off the tree, and it's not a wise idea to do. When they got rid of Zook, it was plain and simple, and I think everybody knew it. They were going after Urban Meyer. They wanted to clear the road, clear the path, and start right away. This is different. There's no clear guy there right now. That's my take on it.
How about you, Neil?
Well, I mean, my guess is that it's, I think Jeremy Foley probably, to some extent, regrets the way that Ron Zook was let go. And I don't mean that in the sense that, there's a lot of theories about Zook being let go so they could pursue Meyer. But I think ultimately the fact that he was trying to engage Picap in a fight and things of that nature probably accelerated it and made it easier to let him go mid-season. So maybe Foley doesn't regret that, but he understands that these circumstances are different. I mean, Will Muschamp has, by all accounts, cleaned up the Florida football program. And I think that as a human being, maybe Jeremy thinks that Will deserves a little better than that.
Well, now we'll go Neil first. We'll alternate which one of you guys goes first and you go second. Do you think that the decision has already been made?
I mean, I think it's as close to made as it can be. But I really don't have much to elaborate on that. I think outside of beating Georgia, which seems extraordinarily unlikely, and beating Florida State, which seems extraordinarily unlikely, I can't imagine that Jeremy Foley doesn't know that it's time for a change of direction.
Okay, how about you, Dave? What do you think?
Totally agree. I think it's pretty much his mind is made up. But we're not Hail Mary. If you beat Georgia, you beat Florida State, people will carry him down University. Like a parade, a celebration. There is a Hail Mary there, but I think it is just so slim and so minute that I would not be surprised by the end of the Georgia game, Jeremy's calling agents.
Well, my personal take is that I think the decision is just about made. I think that there's, at this point, really nothing he could do to save his job. But let's play devil's advocate. Say Florida goes in to the Georgia game and beats them. Say they run the table. Say they beat Florida State and win a bowl game. Do you think Will Muschamp comes back if Florida does not lose again this year?
I think it's going to be partially on response of how First of all, the days of Will Muschamp winning 10 to 7 games are over. People are sick of it. I mean, this is, I started covering Florida in the Pittsburgher era, and I think he needed to do his homework a little bit. This is not the kind of thing Florida wants to watch anymore. And he could, if he won out was finally opening up the offense and doing some things and showing some creativity, maybe there's still a little hope. I mean, we're talking sweep here, not, lose a couple more games. But I think if he doesn't, he's got to finally let Kurt Roper coach his offense, let him run with things. And I think we're talking about, what are the odds of me winning the lottery on Saturday? Boy, I'd love to, but I tell you what, I'm not going to win the lottery, and Will Muschamp's not going to say good job. It's that simple.
How about you, Neil?
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, you have to, look, even if they beat Georgia, and normally, this is how bad it is. I mean, in a normal year, you would say, with Hudson Mason, that, mostly when Georgia plays, as good as they are, and that's a good football team, you would say Georgia is probably disadvantaged at the quarterback position. Hudson Mason is limited. But Florida doesn't even have a remote advantage in that area. I mean, Jeff Driscoll has been so incompetent that, Hudson Mason appears to be Global's quarterback. And that's not even factoring in whether Curley plays, and who cares if he plays, because LSU essentially came in unable to throw a forward pass and won at the Swamp, in front of an electric crowd. I mean, the odds of Florida doing what they need to do to save Will Muschamp's job they're astronomical.
That's fair.
I got a prediction right now. Gurley plays, and they beat Florida by at least 3 touchdowns. That'll be the end of Will Muschamp.
Do you think then that he's fired right after and allowed to coach the end of the season?
Publicly announced or not, I think Gurley plays, and I think they blow Florida out, and I think he's done. Whether they want to wait and announce it later, whatever they want to do, I think Gurley plays. I think it's time. I've seen this too many times. It's time for them, the NCAA, to let him come back, and the timing could not be worse for Will Muschamp. I just don't think. I think Florida's season ended against Missouri. I strongly believe that.
I wouldn't be surprised if he plays. I would think that Florida's defense would play well, but, I mean, they always do under Will Muschamp. You saw the graphic that ESPN's been showing. That Florida has held teams to under 120 yards, and they've lost twice. That is a very... That's embarrassing for the offense, but it speaks volumes of the way he coaches defense. His defenses have been very good. I don't think Georgia puts up a ton of points unless the offense self-destructs. And, well, in that case, there's really no argument. And look, I was one of Muschamp's first critics. I mean, I saw some things against Vanderbilt last year that just, they were red flags, man. They were not very promising signs. But now I'm thinking if his defense can play well, and they play well against Georgia, I mean, Foley didn't fire him after Missouri. If they play a top 10 team pretty close, I'm not sure they fire him right after that. And here's the thing. His defenses at Florida have not been fantastic. I mean, you look at the 3rd and 17, they let Missouri convert. The 3rd and 23 against Alabama. The 3rd and 25 against LSU. So they haven't been perfect, but they've been good. They've been really good. And those are single plays that they got burned on. Sure, they get burned every now and then. Garrett Johnson of Kentucky took them deep a couple of times. Blake Sims picked them apart a couple of times. But by and large, this is a very good defense. And I don't think that Georgia runs away with the game because of that. They may score points, sure. They're not going to score 50. They're not going to score 40 even. They're not going to blow Florida out unless the Gators self-destruct. Which, granted, they do a lot under Muschamp. Let's face it, that's what they do best. They turn the ball over a ton of times. You look, Missouri, 6 turnovers. Georgia, a couple years ago, that big game, 6 turnovers. Miami last year, 5 turnovers. Tennessee last year, 4 turnovers. They go on and on. They do it a lot. I realize that. But if they don't, and I'm not sure why I'm assuming this, but I'll be optimistic for once regarding the Gators. Assuming they don't, they won't get blown out.
Well, stats are misleading, and I'm a big advocate of that. I can make Steve Spurrier look like a defensive genius if you want me to. Stats are very misleading. Missouri was so far ahead, they were not going to let Florida have any chance. It's that simple. The stats people need to look at is third down efficiency. It has destroyed the Florida defense this year. They have been against Alabama, they were embarrassing. They embarrassed themselves. And that poor coach against LSU, same situation. Clutch point of the game, you don't drop 5 guys. You try to play one-on-one matchups against outside receivers, which is ludicrous. And they got smoked. And the same thing happened against Missouri in a very clutch situation. When you're in 3rd and 25, 3rd and 15, 3rd and 18, and you let a team convert, that's bad coaching, period. And he's supposed to be a defensive coach. I think their defensive stats are extremely misleading. I think the Missouri stats were ridiculous for anybody to even point at. The game was over. What they wanted to do was not put the ball in the air, not take any chance. Just punt the ball back. When you're up 3, 4, 5 touchdowns, the game is yours. Just don't give it away. I think Will Muschamp's defensive stats are some of the most misleading things in college football. I firmly believe that.
Yeah, I mean, he touched on the point I want to make, which is that, I mean, he basically comprehensively made the point I want to make, which is I think the defense this year, I think it's just another, nail in the coffin, so to speak. And this is the worst his defenses have performed. You're in a 21-14 game against Alabama, and it's 3rd and 23, and your offensive coordinators in the press box saying they're going to throw a screen pass to Derrick Henry, and they get 30 yards. And Florida was in that game until that play. LSU, I go back to, there was one receiver that you can throw to, and they couldn't throw forward passes. Their game plan was to hand the ball to Leonard Fournette and hope that Florida self-destructed. And guess what? Florida self-destructed and couldn't stop the run well enough to win the football game. Those are just facts. And on the key play of the game, it's 3rd and 25, and you go one-on-one against the one guy that everybody from SEC media days knew was who LSU would throw the ball to if they had to complete a pass. You let him get open down the field. I mean, that's inexcusable. These statistics are nice, but very misleading.
Here's my theory on the whole thing, and people might laugh at me. I don't really care. I could care less. I've done this 20 years. I've watched. I think Will Muschamp made one bad hire after another, and it's killed him. One bad assistant coach hire after another has destroyed him. T.J. Duncan has never been a defensive coordinator before. Charlie Weiss was looking for another head coaching job. I can go on down the list. He has made one bad assistant coach hire after another. If you look around the country, half of Urban Meyer's assistant coaches are head coaches now. If you look around what Steve Spurrier hired, those guys are spread all over the country. They're not just a bunch of losers. They brought in a coach who was not even a team that won the game the year before and talked about how great he is and talked about how great this one was and that one was. Now, was Dan Quinn a great hire? Absolutely. But you know what? He needed to make a change, a radical change offensively after the first year. And he brought in a guy who basically was running an offense that the head coach put in at Boise State. It was not his. They brought in another guy who's an offensive coordinator. I'll give him credit. He's a good guy. He's intelligent. He's smart. They didn't hire Cutcliffe. They hired his underling. They needed to bring in creative, smart, intelligent people, and they have failed. And that's where he has failed himself. If you look at turnovers were a problem, if you look at various aspects of this program, the assistant coaches are just as much to blame as Will Muschamp is. But nobody's talking about the really, really bad wide receivers they have had in the last 3 years. That's coaching. That's coaching. That's not just kids and talent. They bring in great recruits. They're not developing them. And that's the head coach's fault when he sits down in December and January and makes a hire. That's why he's going to get fired right there. That's my opinion. That sums it up.